Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
That's the drawback to just doing it through HDMI. If I'm on Zoom, then it's a lot easier to see the
I'm gonna
attendees.
register for non-agenda items.
Oh, okay, great. Let's see if we can fix that so we can actually see if anyone raises their hand. Yeah, hey Nick, before we start real quick.
What's up?
Since I'm not on Zoom right now, is there an easy way to tell who is on Zoom, like see hands raised, or should I register for Zoom real quick and log in to make that?
Yeah, it's not too much trouble. That would be good. I can see if I can switch it on my end. I can tell you Joe, Kelly, and Mark are on Zoom right now. But yeah,
Just if someone's raising their hand.
yeah.
I will do that.
Let me poke around, but let's get it rolling since we're on the air. I'll work with you there.
Sounds good. In that case, I will call this meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission to order. The first item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have draft minutes from January 21st, 2026. Those were included in the packet. We have a motion related to the minutes.
Move we accept. Oh, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Item number 3 is public appearances for a non-agenda item. We do have you registered for a non-agenda item. Call Steve up.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me. It's April and coming into the optimal biking season, and looking at your agenda, there are a lot of reports, but I would just challenge the commission to take on a project that's perhaps one of the action items in the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and start moving forward with that project in between meetings, and coming here and reporting on your progress. I can think of lots of ideas, but I leave it to you, but there's opportunities in having the commission, and I hope that you seize them. That's all. Oh, I should say Steve Arnold, 2530 Target Street, for the record. Thank you.
And I guess just to let you know, I think probably the May meeting, we should be getting started on the biking on sidewalks item, which is one of the action items.
And e-motos.
And e-motos. E-motos we'll be discussing further on in the agenda, at least as a recap of what's going on at the statewide level. Agreed. I think we will be having that as a further action item. It's actually probably going to wait. Who's going to share this with the announcements? Just we were talking about our May meeting, but I think my intent is to bring the biking on sidewalks issue back here. So I've been gathering quite a bit of information on what all of the other communities in Dane County are doing. So I've got, thank you, Steve. I've got a pretty comprehensive list at this point, as well as the bike fed was very helpful in getting me a list of what all the communities in the Milwaukee area are doing. So I would say there is not a lot of standardization, and there are a lot of options for us to look at and as we craft whatever we want to do with biking on sidewalks. But if there are no other public appearances for non-agenda items, we can move on to agenda items. Public works projects impacting the bike and ped network. Over Ross.
Yeah. So Phil, are you?
Okay. Let's go with this one.
Okay. So to kick this off, the MMSD 9 Springs Interceptor project. There's a map on the next slide of the phasing for this, but phase 1 is kind of the one that's actually scheduled right now, and that's going to be constructed early 2027 to mid 2028. And that goes from kind of the very eastern border of Fitchburg over basically to Highway 14 and goes under there.
This is nearly identical to, we had this noticed last fall as well, but the schedule has been delayed slightly. So initially 26 into 27 was going to be the construction timeline. They just pushed that back a little bit. We haven't had any active communications on the reason for that, but just a little bit of delay on this project.
Yeah. And the later phases of this, particularly phase 3, 4, and 4, will have pretty big impacts to some of Fitchburg's bike trails, but those aren't going to come up for a while yet. So, next one is the Fitchburg Road reconstruction. So just to give everyone an overview, as a reminder, this will be converting Fitchburg Road from Tonto Trail up to Nesbitt to an urban section road. It'll have bike lanes, new curb pavement, storm sewer, bunch of new flood control measures, and then a multi-use path on the east side of the road. And getting that multi-use path in is requiring some pretty significant retaining walls underneath the 18 and 151 bridges, as well as the Military Ridge State Trail bridge. And then the Lacey Road and Fitzgerald Road intersection will be converted from a minor street stop control into a roundabout. So on the next slide, we've got some updates on the roundabout and the bike infrastructure around that are relevant to this commission. So because of Wisconsin's condemnation laws and eminent domain laws, we cannot use eminent domain if there is a bike facility on that part of the property that we're trying to condemn for. Some of the property owners in this project have not been super cooperative. We can still acquire property without condemnation for use as a bike facility, but we cannot condemn for it. And multiple of these property owners have not been cooperative in regular negotiations, so we have had to move into condemnation for some of these properties, which has basically made us unable to get the bike facilities in red around this roundabout.
This is looking from the bottom edge of the map here is going east along Lacey Road.
North is to the right. So along that west edge, the top of the roundabout in the image, that's kind of the bike bypass. So that trail is not continuous north-south. The trail that goes north and south is on the east side of the road. But basically, if you're in the bike lane going southbound on Fitzgerald, you would have the option of either, in the original design, you would have the option of taking your lane through the roundabout with vehicle traffic, or hopping off the bike lane onto this concrete path and going around the roundabout and then jumping back into the bike lane. But because of the condemnation here, we have to eliminate that option. So there will be no bike bypass for this, and the only option for going southbound will either be to go through the roundabout or to jump off of the roundabout and take the pedestrian crossings around, and you'd have to walk on grass for a little bit to get back to the bike lane as well. Because of the next thing on the southeast side, that property owner is also not cooperative with the regular negotiations.
Can you show which one that is?
That's this one here.
Okay.
Well, you can't see my mouse. You can see Phil's. So that one we've also had to eliminate. Right now, that one does not provide much connectivity because that trail does not continue very much further south out of this image. But when South Stoner Prairie eventually develops, that trail will continue to the south to the end of that development. So we're gonna look at other routes and other methods to get a trail in here that connects to the South Stoner Prairie development and then connects to the trail on Lacey on the north side of the road.
Question.
Go ahead, Joe.
Can you explain condemnation in this context? Just need a clarification on what it means.
So basically, the way that any city acquires property for a road or any other project, you generally start out with regular negotiation procedures where the city would get an appraisal on the value of the property that we're looking to acquire, and then we talk to the property owner and usually start off with what we think is a fair dollar value. In this case, the property that we're acquiring, there's a dark black line kind of just above that red trail. That's kind of the border of the property we were looking to acquire. So we started with that with these property owners. They were not happy with the dollar amount that we offered. We negotiated a little bit, and then because of time pressure to get this project started, we had to move into official condemnation proceedings, which involves sending out an official letter, and then the property owner has 60 days to get their own appraisal done and return that to the city. That 60 days is up on April 6th, so in 5 days from now. And then once the property owner has their appraisal returned to the city, then there's another period of negotiation where if their appraisal is higher, the city would probably offer that price and see if they will take that. And if we cannot come to an agreement based on the property owner's appraisal and the negotiations after that, the city will it's called an award of damages. The city will basically put a price on the award of damages and officially condemn that land, which basically means the city acquires it, and there are some legal avenues that the property owner can challenge that, but they're much more limited at that point from the property owner's perspective.
The important thing here is that historically, in terms of like legal cases underpinning this stuff, condemnation works because there are legal cases that allow cities, governments to do this for projects in benefit of the public interest.
Mm-hmm.
And the decision was made at the state level in the last governor's administration that bicycle infrastructure did not meet that criteria.
And just to be clear, it wasn't
That's
like
overly simplifying.
Yeah, there was a Wisconsin Supreme Court case that basically said that sidewalks were not able to be condemned for, and then that went through the appeals process, and they separate it out. You can condemn for sidewalks, you can't condemn for bike facilities. So
I guess the question then, in terms of what you are using eminent domain for, are you then reducing the scope of how much you're taking because of that? Or is there a possibility at some point in the future?
So we are not reducing the amount of land that we are acquiring because there are utilities under all of these paths. So we still need the same amount of land, whether the trail is there or not. We have explained that to the property owners, and it has not made a difference. But there's no court precedent for acquiring the land and then later on putting a bike trail on it. Our city attorney's thought is that that is probably not entirely legal, so we won't be pursuing that. Unless there's like a change in property owner, then we would, talk to them and see what we can get negotiated.
So at this point, we're not interested in being the ones to test the water.
Exactly.
Down to what it means to establish under chapter 32.
Yeah.
I guess one other comment, I'll get to you in a second, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, one quick comment is just, since this is a statewide issue, there've been bills in the past 3 sessions. I guess just might need to call on you to have this as an example if this would ever come up for a legislative hearing, because there's some interest in the legislature with undoing that act.
We're pretty good at hanging on to documentation.
Yeah, and there are various forms of changes to this ruling that are kind of in various states, and if there is like a retroactive law change that allows paths to be built in areas that have previously been condemned, we would move forward with
And
this.
that would certainly be a factor, is if the laws change, does it apply retroactively? And if not, then we still may have our hands tied.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to point out 2 things in the condemnation process for those who might watch this later. You might wonder how you value these little slivers of property, and they generally look at the whole lot and then they take a per square foot price. And Ross, isn't there a third appraisal if the first 2 are too far apart?
So that's when you would get into like a legal proceeding, and it's if the city's offer is too far from what a judge would call the fair price for that property, then the property owner is entitled to that difference. So, but that requires a lawsuit from the property owner.
So my question for Ross is that the southeast connection is very important because it would be a gap. And will we be grading this acquired property so that it will be possible so that we don't have to go back later and put retaining walls in and things like that? Will we grade it? Okay.
Yeah, the southeast corner is pretty flat anyways, so there's not a lot of grading that's required.
Okay.
And so say nothing changes with that property owner and South Stoner Prairie gets built, and there's a gap there. There's other routes for a path that we could look at, like wrapping it around. There's some ponds behind that property. We could wrap it around the ponds.
We want
and
direct
stuff like
routes
that.
north-south because they're putting in new subdivisions to the south.
I totally agree. There's some limitations, and there's workarounds that we can make happen.
So the other point that I would share is that getting prohibition of condemnation for bicycle and pedestrian facilities repealed is a top legislative priority for the statewide bike fed. And I'm on that lobby team. And so we will be using this example. And of course, we're hoping for a better legislature come January.
Yeah. It's just one kind of procedural question. The property on the west, is that actually in Fitchburg or is that town of Verona?
The west side of the road is all town of Verona. So City of Fitchburg is legally able to condemn land in the town of Verona. We are working with the town so that the town would be the one to actually condemn it. But if the town's not willing to, Fitchburg is legally able to.
Do we have to annex the property like we did in the Whiting Farm up at the roundabout at Nesbit?
I don't believe so.
New bump on the boundary? Is the boundary the center line of the road here?
The boundary is the current center line of Fitcherona.
Right.
It will not be the center line once this project is complete, because the road is moving.
Just to make sure I'm looking at this right, so in the northeast corner, there's like two curb cutouts, one crossing Lacey, one crossing Fitcherona.
Yep.
The other side of both of those are gonna terminate in grass for right now.
The other side of
Like,
those.
like so if you're on the northeast corner and you're crossing that curb cut, crossing Fitcherona, that's gonna just end in.
No, so the northeast side, both of those curb ramps on both the east and west side of the road would still be there. Because those are both in the city right of way, so we can put those in, no problem.
But on the other
This
side,
one will be constructed because it connects to the sidewalk, right?
Yes.
okay,
So we're eliminating all the curb cuts on the south side of the intersection.
Can we put the one into the median when we build it?
is it gonna be harder to put that in later?
So at this point, I think it is best for ADA requirements to not have any curb cuts there. ADA and ProWag are a little bit unclear about median curb cuts and detectable warnings, but in general, if you have a detectable warning or a curb cut, there needs to be something on the other side of the road to go to.
Yes.
And even though this is in the middle and there won't be any way to get to it, it's kind of unclear how that should work. So we'll just leave it out for now and we can put it in later.
So, and then my other question, if you head all the way north of Fitcherona and you hit the other roundabout at Nesbit on Fitcherona, on the other side of that, on Fitcherona, is that a multi-use path or is that a sidewalk?
The northwest quadrant is a multi-use path.
Okay, so what we
It
have to
goes
do,
up parallel to the street for a ways toward Quarry Ridge Senior Living, and then goes into that Madison Park and into the Madison neighborhood to the west.
so is there any modification we'll have to do to that roundabout to connect? Or is it already?
No, so the path for the rest of the project will go in as planned.
Okay.
And it connects up to that, the concrete path on that roundabout.
Awesome.
So, yeah, the rest of the path is completely within the city's right of way, so we don't have to get any property for it.
And then my last question was the phasing. I understand this is 2 years now, so is the roundabout not this year? It's just everything north of the roundabout?
Correct. So we, basically because of the size of this project, we're planning to split this into 2 years now. So 2026 will be from just south of Quarry Vista to the north. Quarry Vista is like a few hundred feet off of the north side of this page. And then 2027 will be just south of Quarry Vista to the south, to Tonto.
And the respective parts of the Fitcherona Road will be closed except for access to those residences.
Yes, this will be local traffic only. So,
When can we expect something to become active over there?
we're going to open bids for this at the end of April and then award at the end of May. So we'll have a contractor on board May 26th if everything goes smoothly, and then construction is scheduled to start the second week of June.
Thank you.
Anything else on Fitcherona? There'll be a lot more to come on this.
It is what it is.
Yep. All right, County Highway bike and ped underpass. So this is just a general map of where this project is, and then the next page has kind of a sketch of our current layout for this. So basically WISDOT is requiring 166-foot curve radii for this trail. Normally, we design bike trails with a 30 or 60-foot radii, but because of the hill coming down into this tunnel, WISDOT is requiring a much larger curve. So we need more property on each side of this structure, and that also made us skew the structure so it is not perpendicular to County Highway anymore. It goes under at an angle. We're working with the developments on the west side of to make this work with their developments and not take up too much of their land. But the main takeaway here is we're probably going to lose Laniello Court, which is right now it's just a driveway into that work area, but it was going to be a road connection for these developments. But because of how deep this tunnel has to be, the trail won't be up to grade when it crosses Laniello Court, so that connection is going to have to be removed. But yeah, otherwise any questions here?
What kind of design speed is that?
It's like 35 to 40 miles an hour on a bike, on a 5% grade.
Okay.
And you'll want to maintain your momentum to go up the other side.
Yeah. So the first person who wants to go through this, 10-foot wide tunnel at 40 miles an hour, let me know.
Shouldn't it be 12 foot wide? Do it. Don't they have shy space?
Yes.
Okay.
The tunnel is 12 feet wide. The path under it is 10 feet wide. But from my understanding, Southeast region WISDOT reviewers are still using 60-foot radii, but Southwest Wisconsin WISDOT reviewers have interpreted some of the bike manuals a little differently on speeds and are requiring much larger radii.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
I might
to
reach
learn.
out to you about this one as well, to talk to WISDOT.
Yeah, this one was interesting to learn.
What are the chances of this development actually breaking ground compared to the previous 3 or 4 proposals?
So they have site plans and are moving forward on a traffic impact analysis. So we're much further along than we have been.
Good. Do they have
so
financing
I'm not as involved in that, but I believe so.
Yeah, that'll be great.
And so there's two options that we're looking at for the trail going north. Because again, the development is just gonna take the trail north after this.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is it could wrap around behind Syncopation, which is what this development is called. The other one is it can go right along County which is the city's preferred route. But as far as the development goes, they would rather it go kind of behind the development, which there's advantages and disadvantages to both ways. A more direct route or less driveway crossings, basically.
Would you take a question on the related stretch of
Sure.
When they restriped that, they put all the buffer on one side, presumably because you're going slower uphill. But do you know if the county has any thought to splitting that buffer and changing the center line so that there's a buffer on both sides of the road that's not so generous?
I don't think the county has considered that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe that just got restriped how it was before they resurfaced.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, just before. Maybe a year before or something.
Okay.
So it's not due to be repainted or anything. Thank you.
Is this up to bid yet, this project?
So we're in the design phase. This one bids in 2027, I believe. I can pull up my schedule.
Oh, so it's not construction year 2026 anymore?
No. Yeah, this will be constructed in 2027.
Any other questions on this project? Any other public works projects? Because I did have one with the BRT. Isn't there a multi-use path going in down, is it on Triverton?
Yes, so when that station on Triverton gets built for BRT, there's gonna be a bunch of multi-use paths that almost connect to it. So there's various connections that we're just making them all go all the way to the station.
I thought I saw it looked like it was actually gonna be quite a bit better connectivity in that area.
Yes, there will be. So you'll be able to bike from like the bridge over Fish Hatchery to like McKee Farms Park on bike trail right past the station. So
And high visibility crosswalk.
yes, that crosswalk. I think we're gonna try to direct people to McKee and Fish Hatch instead of like crossing or maybe down to Chapel Valley, because the intersection at Triverton Pike still will not be signalized.
Right.
So it won't be a great crossing, so. And it's too close to either of those intersections to really signalize effectively.
And not Yarmouth Greenway either.
Right. Yeah.
And then I guess one other question, I was in the CIP, I guess what the status is of the potential multi-use path on the south side of McKee from, I think it's basically what, Richardson West.
So that's synced up with, there's a water main project. That's why we would be tearing up the sidewalk and just replacing it with a multi-use path. So I believe the water project was pushed off, but that'll be, I think there'll be some changes to that in the 2027 CIP. That'll be, Public Works is working on it now, but it'll be made public in the next month or so, whatever the CIP schedule is.
Yeah, I know it was kind of like, it was ancillary to the water project, but
Yeah.
it would be an improvement. Steve?
Yeah, I noticed that you can't notice it now because Fitchburg is closed, but on the weekend I was over to Fitchburg in the Jamestown Quarry, and I see that the north and west side sidewalk has been demolished, and by the residences there, it's been replaced by a multi-use path. Will that be continuous through the Jamestown Quarry subdivision?
Yes, it'll connect up to McKee.
Okay, and is there any plan to connect that path at McKee down to the one that comes north out of the Nesbitt roundabout and stops along Fitchrona when it goes into the park? There's a sidewalk there today.
We don't, that's something we've talked about, but we don't have any like current plans for that, since that would, there are some issues we'd have to figure out going past like Target and Hy-Vee for that.
Yep. Is that lot, well, it looks like it might be a vacant lot south of the Super Target right there. Is that for sale for development, or is that part of expansion of the?
That I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ross. On to 4B, which is update from the Governor's Bicycle Coordinating Council, which that's on to me. So we had our latest Governor's Bicycle Council meeting a couple of weeks ago, so I just wanted to relay a few things back. Steve, I know I've got you registered to speak on the first item, which is e-moto regulations. And so this is a topic that the Governor's Bike Council is taking up. The Bike Fed is also taking up along with the bike industry. And so what we're really trying to get at is the fact that we have, so I found out they call acoustic bikes in the industry now, non-motorized. There are e-bikes which have a legal definition. If you go into chapter, I want to say it's 340, there is a definition of the 3 different classes of e-bike. There are wattage ratings on the motors, there are speed restrictions in terms of where the electric motor is governed. But then we also hear complaints about the e-bikes, which I've also been referring to as e-motos, which don't actually meet the legal definition of an e-bike. In a lot of cases, the motors are rated at higher than 750 watts. They aren't governed at 20 or 28 miles per hour, depending on the specific class of e-bike. But then at the same time, they don't really meet the legal definition of a motorcycle either. In some cases, I mean, motorcycle regulations are really guided more towards internal combustion engines and make references to CCs. Also, there's a requirement that they have a VIN, so you can actually register them with DOT. And so the Bike Fed has really been taking the lead on this, and then as well as Governor's Bike Council, based on some input that we've had from our legislative members, to at least go out and define what these e-motos are. And so that just kind of give an update to this group to say that this is sort of the process we're working through, is we want to define what they are and then place at least some broad restrictions on them. Namely, I think from sort of a consumer protection piece of saying you can't sell an e-moto as an e-bike. They aren't legally an e-bike. As well as potentially some kind of warnings about what e-bikes can, or what e-motos can and cannot be used for. But then part of what I want to bring this back to is I think we'll probably be seeing, hopefully over this next year, leading to the legislative session next January, a push from municipalities to actually, I guess, push the state to actually have a statewide definition. Because part of the problem we're seeing is there are individual municipalities now. Steve could probably help me with the list. It's like Wanakee, I think Horicon.
Yep, Horicon was coming up.
I think McFarland is looking at it, who are now separately trying to not only regulate these, but define them. And so I think what we're really pushing for is to say, if we have a statewide definition of what they are, we can then, the municipalities at least have a common framework to discuss where do we want these things? Do we want them on sidewalks? Do we want them on multi-use paths? But as long as there's a statewide definition, that everyone's kind of working from the same playbook.
Are there other states that have already done this?
Yeah, New Jersey.
So New Jersey went way too far in the other direction, I would say, and essentially lumped e-bikes in with e-motos.
Okay.
And I think that's the other piece we're trying to get at is like, I don't think people have a problem with the B-cycles going around. That's not the, I don't know if I've ever heard a complaint about reckless driving on a B-cycle. But you do hear complaints about people doing 35 miles per hour down the bike path or down a sidewalk. It's like, well, if it's going that fast, it's not an e-bike. It doesn't meet the legal definition.
Is there any push one way or the other from the industry on this?
So I would say the bike industry itself that is complying with the current standards, and the primary one I've heard from was Trek, who makes e-bikes that are,
because largely bike manufacturers are not making e-motos, right? They're generally pretty separate. Okay.
Yeah, they're typically overseas manufacturers, and they're selling mail order or online into the United States, and they're marketing them as e-bikes. And if there are no VINs, the current regulations in Wisconsin are that they are not legal on the public right-of-way. They can only be used on private property. But that's not what people are being told who buy them by the people who are selling them. They're being marketed as e-bikes, and there are tragic accidents crashes that have occurred where parents, well-meaning parents, have bought these things for their kids that are capable of going 35 miles an hour, and they're much heavier than a bike. So,
So at least this isn't something that's gonna get like pushback from any major businesses in the state, or?
I would say the bike manufacturers are on board with, they want
yeah,
something.
they feel like they're being smeared
Got it.
by these illegal vehicles. So there has been a law introduced, unlikely to go anywhere, to have the Consumer Product Protection Agency regulate these things nationally. Unfortunately, the Consumer Product Protection Agency is down to one of its 5 members and is unable to function at all. So the MPO, our Metropolitan Planning Organization, is just about ready to come out with a new draft of guidance for municipalities, what needs to be done, and it's very good. I read the previous draft, but not this one.
The new draft is pretty similar.
It's got incremental improvements that people have suggested, but it doesn't make any main policy changes. So the we are pushing to get, there is a Republican legislator who has agreed to be the author of a bill that we write, and so that is likely to come up no matter what, but not till the next session. Andy and I have discussed the idea of passing a resolution in Fitchburg that could be more of an educational and advocacy resolution that would say, whereas, you know, all these things are dangerous, they're happening, they're not e-bikes. And basically the whereas is, whereas this is a statewide problem, be it resolved that we will not regulate these things in Fitchburg, and that we call on the federal government, and failing that, we call on the state to regulate these in a uniform way. Generally what people expect are, if they exceed the capabilities of the 3 classes of e-bikes, they should be registered as mopeds or motorcycles, and the ones that don't have VINs that can't be registered would be illegal, and that you would require a Class M driver's license, a motorcycle license, and of course you would have to be 16 or older, those kinds of rules. So that's the goal that we're mapping out, and it's that's how Fitchburg can help. And I did talk to Kirsten Kleckner at Middleton on Saturday, and she is very interested in the draft that I sent you, and she wants to do the same thing in Middleton, is basically demand that the state step in and fill this gap and set a good example of not having a patchwork of local regulations.
Yeah, so to Steve's point, ideally we would have one national standard, but barring that, I guess we'll take 50 standards.
That's what we had to do with the 3-class system, is that it was imported from Europe. It's an EU standard, somewhat modified, I suppose, and then a patchwork state by state was adopted by like 45 states or something like that.
But I'll take 50 solutions as opposed to 1,000 solutions.
That's right. 1,000 solutions just in Wisconsin.
So I guess just kind of be on the lookout for that, as Steve mentioned, to come up with kind of a draft resolution. So presumably we'll be seeing that at some point if we can find an older sponsor.
Now that we have a request from Middleton, we have to get moving on it.
And hopefully we can wait on that until after the MPO guidance is official, just to make sure.
Yeah, we'll conform to that.
Yeah. So any questions on that? If not, there were a couple DNR updates that came up at the meeting as well, just to let people know about. So the Badger State Trail Stewart Tunnel project, the construction is anticipated to start actually this month on it. Anticipating it'll probably be an early 2027 completion. They said if it weren't for the fact that it has threatened species of bat in it, they would be done this year, but they have to start construction late and end it early in order to accommodate the hibernation schedule of the bats that live in.
What was the final determination on the nature of the project?
In terms of like the material, it's corrugated pipe that's going into it.
Okay.
Tunnel within a tunnel.
Yes.
Something that'll still allow the bats to
So
live
they'll
there.
be separate, yeah, so there'll be the original tunnel, and then, yeah, as Steve said, there's a tunnel within a tunnel, so there'll be a gap between it, so the bat habitat will actually be further separated from the trail users.
And a little more insulated.
And the
Air
trail,
pocket for them.
the trail will be, the tunnel will therefore be open year-round.
Because at one point, that was a discussion, was putting doors on it and shutting it during the winter time for the bats.
Like Elroy Sparta does.
Probably could have brought this up earlier with the MMSD discussion. They are anticipating that I think it's phase 2 will actually start this year on the MMSD project, which will impact the Military Ridge Trail in the town of Verona. According to DNR, the MMSD will be able to do the work without shutting the trail down, so they will not need to have a detour for it. I know we have had experience with that on, I think it was Military Ridge Path when MMSD was doing work.
They have to horizontal drill under the Verona Road, so they're just gonna horizontal drill under the Military Ridge Path as well.
So I think we had experience with that maybe 7 or 8 years ago, where they were doing the sewer interceptor work, but keeping the trail open, and there were some shifts involved, and occasionally just single lane usage of the trail, but they were able to keep it open. Then also, just noting that they're currently in the process of, I think they just had their public meeting. This isn't a Fitchburg project, but it does impact us since it's on Military Ridge Trail to reconstruct the bridges through Verona, as well as they will be paving the Military Ridge Trail from Old PV through the Verona High School.
Amazing.
Epic is not gonna pay for the last one.
They're not,
Mile.
I think the view is that once you make it to the high school, you can pop up to Verona Avenue on Wildcat Lane and go across.
Do a survey on how many Epic employees use that stretch.
It's heavily trafficked, I can tell you that.
I can tell you, the portion from Fitchburg to Verona, I will tell you that it's very heavily used by Epic employees.
And we get complaints because there used to be, I haven't remember seeing it recently, but there used to be a gate in the town of Verona that from time to time was closed. And also we get complaints whenever it's not plowed promptly.
Yeah, the gate, well, they're kind of related. The gate was there when they would shut it down for snowmobile use, but we haven't had snow and snowmobile use. They don't use snowmobiles on that
A
portion.
gate, not across the Military Ridge. Oh.
It used to be when basically at the end of the pavement, when they would switch it over for use as a snowmobile trail, they would actually put a gate up to keep people from biking through it.
That's considerate.
But I don't think that's been closed in over a decade. But we also haven't had significant snowfalls in the winters.
Oh. Except for that one a couple weeks ago, but.
Yeah. Next item is All Kids Bike. So we had, I know that this group has expressed an interest in biking at schools. So we had a presentation from All Kids Bike, which is a nonprofit that puts bikes into schools specifically for like elementary school age kids. They actually use I guess bringing this up to this group just to see if there's any interest in having them give a presentation here. Since I know Verona has a fairly robust bike education program, but maybe less so with Oregon and Madison school districts. And so it's a nonprofit group that looks to get bikes into gym classes specifically for elementary school age kids. They use the Strider balance bikes that are then convertible to put pedals on them. And so they kind of progress with the kids as their skill level progresses. But again, just throwing that out there if there's an interest, because I know I've heard that from this group in the past, that it feels like even though the schools are a separate governmental body from us, just to the extent we can work with them and make them aware of projects like this that are out there. My understanding is it's about $9,000 that the school has to come up with to procure, I think they said 24 bikes, which their view is that's enough to be sufficient for an elementary school. So if there's an interest, I can reach out to them and see if we want to have a presentation from them at some point in the future. Otherwise, the last item I had was just economic impacts of cycling, and just want to again kind of throw this out to the group. So we had the Fox Valley Regional Planning Commission speak to us at our last meeting. I guess one piece that they brought up, so the Governor's Bicycle Council drafted, worked with DOT to create the economic impact of bicycling in 2024, which was a statewide study of the economic impact of biking activity. One thing I found interesting was that the Fox Valley Regional Planning Commission had actually taken that and then done a more localized version of it, and had really kind of tried to drill down into like, here's the impact on like our actual communities in like Green Bay and Appleton, Oshkosh down to Fond du Lac. And so I don't know if that's a subject we would maybe want to broach with CARPC to see if they could go talk to their colleagues up in the Fox Valley, if that would be of a benefit to us, or if we're fine utilizing sort of the statewide economic impact analysis that shows the billions of dollars statewide, but doesn't really have anything drilled down to like Dane County.
Yeah, I always love more data, but that question of would we get any extra use out of it, I don't know that Dane County is lacking for inertia in pushing bike stuff forward. Yeah, right. And the statewide analysis might be enough for us, but interesting.
If you were dealing with a bunch of governments that were recalcitrant about investing in bikes, it might be.
Then the more granular you can get, the better.
That was kind of my view, but again, I thought it was interesting that they did that.
Yeah. Do you know if they've done anything then with that report?
I think it just came out like within the past few months, so I don't know that they've had a chance to do much with it. And as an aside, one other interesting thing I found out is apparently they actually help write bike and pick plans for their communities up there, so that they don't have to hire consultants to do it. Apparently their regional planning commission provides a lot of the staff assistance to do that.
It's very cool. And then you get a little bit more consistency among all the municipalities too.
Anyway, since we're a little bit behind schedule, we'll move on to item 4C, which is the traffic's counter data.
Yeah, let me get back to that PowerPoint for the screen share. Where are we?
I guess while Phil pulls this up, Public Works recently purchased 2 traffic counters that we're going to use to do counts where we need to, where we don't have Phil's permanent counters.
Just a little bit more of a pop-up thing.
Yeah, so just we're going to use them for engineering purposes to make decisions on trails and roads and stuff like that.
Met with Andy and Steve and Mark back in September to kind of walk through what the process is for data collection. It had been a year or so since I'd gone out and collected anything. So Mark went around in September and then went again in March to collect data from all of our counters as best he could. You'll see a couple of blanks in here for a couple different reasons. The Military Ridge one there cuts out in October. I think the message I got when I tried to upload that data was that the the dock got disconnected a little too soon, so we didn't actually get the data from Military Ridge over the winter, but that's fine, the counter's still collecting it. So should be able to get that whenever I go out next. The Cap City Trail East counter actually should be zeroed out. I need to go fix this one. That should be zeroed out as of about April of last year, because that's when construction began on Cyan McCoy, and the counter came out as part of the trail rerouting there. So basically from last March through this March, there's not really any useful data from that Cap City Trail counter. But otherwise, just kind of a continuation of data. I know I haven't reported this to Bike Ped, well, since it was the Bike Committee, and that was about 2 years ago. So for those of you who who weren't here then, and I think that's Kelly and Brandon, basically we put these traffic counters, we were looking to get some additional data back in 2022 to 21, was it? 22, to help support. I mean, there were a couple of ideas that we had. The primary one was that when we have applied for our bicycle-friendly community status, what they use for bike ridership data is the self-reported, what's your primary mode of commuting to work, that is reported through the ACS, American Community Survey, through US Census. And our data there shows that 0.75% of Fitchburgers bike. Kind of a shockingly low number if you spend much time around Fitchburg, but that's the only number they've got, so that's what the League of American Bicyclists use. So we said, you know, if we can get some data that shows that more people are out on our trails than that, more people are biking, maybe we can give that to them and they will reconsider. So that's what we did. We put these 7 counters out there. So you'll see 3 of them around the bike roundabout here, one on the Badger State Trail, one on the Cannonball, one on the Military Ridge. There's one here in the Cap City Trail, kind of the east path out of the city. There's one here on the Cap City Trail just off of Fish Hatchery Road and that overpass, one in McKee Farms Park, and then one down on this trail along Fish Hatchery Road right by Irish Lane. The other thought was, you know, we don't necessarily have an idea in mind for how we might use this for future engineering considerations, but we may come up with something. Short answer there is we haven't come up with much yet because these are unestablished trails. We have data that tells us how many people are using them. These traffic counters are something that fit within the budget, but they are infrared counters that just capture how many times essentially the infrared beam is broken. Could be a biker, could be a pedestrian, could be a deer, could be a branch falling. So they don't detect mode, they don't detect direction, and that reduces limitation a little bit, but something that's a little bit more robust also comes with a higher price tag, and so that was kind of our consideration here, is this got us base numbers. We did collect data, we did submit it to the Bike League as part of our 2023 bike-friendly community status reapplication. Not only did they not use that data to boost us up to gold, if you look at our report card, they seem to not even consider the data. They still reported that our ridership is 0.75%. So that was kind of a bummer that the primary reason we thought we were getting these not only wasn't as helpful as we thought, but it seems like it was not even really received by the intended target. So that's the history of these. We still have them, we still do collect the data from time to time. At this point, haven't really come up with a strong use case for them, so that's why there hasn't been a report in a couple years. It's why the data hasn't really been collected. I've talked with Ross about some possibilities for how we might make better use of these. You know, certainly there are some thoughts we've had about maybe moving 1 or 2 counters and getting some comparative counts along the same bike trail at different points in the city. Now again, you're still always going to capture some bikes and some pedestrians, so we're getting trail usage as kind of an aggregate. We're not distinguishing between different types, but we're getting trail usage. So that's a possibility. To this point, there hasn't really been much else, but we get some interesting counts. Ross, go ahead.
Since we talked, I did come up with a use that I'm gonna have for this data.
Yeah.
So with my trail counts, they're gonna be 2 weeks long or so. But using, if you go down to the next slide, using these graphs, you can basically create a multiplier depending on what month I do my short-term bike counts. So if I do them in March, I know I'm not getting as many trail users as if I did one in June or July.
Right.
But using this data, I can come up with a Fitchburg specific multiplier for March to basically average it out for what we would have for the whole year. And basically like normalized data, so I can do counts in any month instead of just in the middle of summer, which is kind of our current practice.
Interesting.
So that really limits the amount of counts we can do when we only have.
But if you can add
2
in
or
the
3
shoulder
good
season,
months.
it's still.
Yep, exactly.
And now we'd still have to factor in, because you get different, I mean, if you look at, so the green line at the bottom is that South Fish Hatchery Trail. Yellow is the Cap City Trail overpass, that's over just west of the overpass. You get different multipliers from March to July depending on what type of trail, what location.
I'd be basically coming up with an average change, like peak to valley for each month. There's papers on how to do it. I don't really know off the top of my head, but there's papers on how to do it that I've read, and I just haven't had the data to actually come up with a Fitchburg specific multiplier. So
Ross, what do your counters count?
the same thing as Phil's. They're
It's
the exact same
counter.
Um,
And these get as granular as our. So I just showed a couple graphs in here comparing sites just over the course of the entire time we've had the counters up. Looking at this is just by month. We can drill down to hourly. It shows you about what you would expect. More people bike during the day than at night. You get more people biking on the weekends than on the weekdays. There's actually, the thing that I found a little interesting is that trail usage, I should be careful here, it's not just biking, but trail usage, even on weekdays, is still higher in the middle of the day than during commute times. So that's an interesting consideration. It says that for the most part, our trail usage is not primarily commutes. It is more recreational. Not a huge surprise, but worth considering. But it gets down to the hour. And that's as granular as we go. You can kind of throw any graph together with that data in the spreadsheet we've got. And I have a couple here that I put together for the purposes of this presentation. But Steve, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I had something under the Bike Fitchburg report on traffic counters. Do you want me to give it now? Bike Fitchburg has a Telram counter, which is window-mounted camera that has an onboard AI that tries to figure out what's going by mode. And they distinguish 10 different types of vehicles or individuals. The public-facing thing on the display and on the website, they categorize them into heavy vehicles, cars, bikes, and peds.
We got one of these as well. So here's one that the city's got in the library facing Lacey Road, and Bike Fitchburg's is it this one here in KL?
Yep, so you can click on that if you want, and it'll show more data. Anyway, I went and downloaded that data, and it's, so we have it since June of 25 at McKee Road, and we have a gap. If you go down a little farther to the detailed one, next.
Oh, I see.
You can see a gap there. They washed their windows and things stopped counting. And I went back over there Monday and got it fixed again, so it's counting again. But except for that gap, we have quarter-hour data for 20 months. And so I'll be getting from Phil, if he's willing to share the data from the library, so that we can, you make a very good point, Ross, is that we want the trail counter data because it's longitudinal data. We have validated relatively accurate manual counts that we take 3 times a year at the Velo Underround. And so not only do we have data that tells us seasonally and hourly and days of the week what the relative data is, but we have these manual counts that are absolute, and then we have the multimodal counters at the library and at McKee Road. And I have a prospect for putting one on South Cyene Road, a Telram counter. So what we hope to do is combine these, and we're going to get Harold Cleams, who has a Telram counter on Allen Street and Madison. Those are the 3 counters in all of Wisconsin of that type.
These are sold by a company in Belgium.
Yes, yeah.
So they're primarily used in Europe.
Well, there's a lot of them in San Francisco, oddly enough. They have a big program. There it is. But Harold's day job is a data analyst, and he's on the Madison Bikes board. And so we're hoping to get his help to do the kinds of interpolation and extrapolation that Ross was talking about for our 2027 BFC application.
The limitation of these Telrams, other than it's a little different, where with Trafex we paid, I want to say it was, let's see, we had a $5,000 budget, so we paid about $700 to $800, around $700 per counter for the Trafex, and that's it. It's ours. We have lifetime data access to their website. The Telram is a couple $100, but then you're also paying a couple $100 a year for a data subscription. So a little different model there. The Telram counters also get mounted on the inside of a window and pointed down towards the street, ideally on like a second floor, so you're getting rid of any potential visual barriers at a lower height. That means you need to have a window that you have some measure of control over to put the counter in. So you're not just going to ask a resident who lives along McKee Road, hey, can we put a counter in your window? Steve was able to get
do that.
well, Steve was able to get cooperation from KL. We own the library. There aren't any city-owned buildings up in the heavier populated, more trafficked parts of the city. We do have Hosta-Hochi now, so that's a possibility that we could maybe. I don't know that budgets are so tight right now, even as little as a counter is. I don't know if I want to ask the city about buying a second one, but we could move ours from the library to Hosta-Hochi at some point if we felt that would be more useful data along Traceway Drive.
Yeah. Let's keep it on Lacey Road.
But the limitation of where we have buildings that we can put these in is a factor as well versus Trafex counters that we put on a trail. Now again, there are limitations because it's an infrared beam, so you don't want to point it towards, let's say, a road where cars are going to break the beam constantly. It's got to face a trail and ideally blank space behind it. But things that we have to think about, it's not as simple as the one you might be most familiar with in terms of bike counters is over by Law Park and Monona Terrace. There's the counter that's got the big sign with the visual numbers. That is just it's embedded in the pavement. That is from Eco Counter. That's about a $20,000 unit. Way more useful to embed it in the pavement like that. Those are great. They come with a cost, but no.
I think I saw Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly had her hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question about those Trafex counters.
Yep.
They have been stationed in the same places for years, and I think we're missing huge chunks of the commuting population because not everybody goes through Velo Underground when they're commuting to work.
Right.
And I wish we would put one near the Cannonball Post Road intersection because I think who commute there every day, see lots of other commuters, and we would get a better picture of the real commute story of our city if we would move at least one of those.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we could get, our thought with putting 3 around the underround was that we would just get maybe if we had some strong differential numbers in what we saw on those 3 sites, it would give us a sense of like, yes, there's a lot of people biking, but what direction are they going? Well, anyway, that is probably a little redundant having 3 there. The one in McKee Farms Park is also probably getting more pedestrians than cyclists, and so that's one that's a candidate to move. It is marked as floating, not McKee Farms Park. It has never floated.
No.
So certainly we could move that number 7 at McKee Farms Park as well.
Is
into
that the
consideration.
one? Is that on that trail that spits out onto Schumann?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
It's just west of the 4-way.
I'm gonna use that data.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we won't move it yet.
Next week then.
But yeah, so when you're going on that trail, basically west from the parking lot right by the playground.
Mm-hmm.
the trail that's just north of that parking lot, go west and you pass the roundabout.
That's where we started our tour de traffics.
We found a lot of wasps.
Found a lot of wasps. I was collecting this data for 2-3 years, and the worst I ever got was a really nasty ant nest or two. Never found wasps, and then that one had it, and Mark said there were a couple others. So you leave them for a year without disturbing them, and hey, wasps. That was fun.
I guess
But yeah, I think that moving 1 or 2 of these counters would be worthwhile. A consideration there, just for me, is our already kind of overburdened parks staff are the ones that are responsible for placing these, and so I gotta get it in there in plenty of time so they can fit it into their schedules. But we can talk about where would be a better spot for 1 or 2 of those and make it happen. I want to get some bigger boxes too. These ones are really small. It's a super tight fit. It's a huge pain.
Let me show you, well, I'll show you what I just bought.
Okay, hopefully bigger. We're just using like basically an electrical disconnect box, and everything barely smashes in there. Should have gone with the bigger one right away.
I did want to just echo Kelly's comment, because she and I have talked about this too, that like we both commute daily to work,
Okay.
and neither of us passes by any one of these on our usual routes, so.
Yeah, I think moving the Cannonball one over closer to Post Road is a good point. We can definitely look into doing that.
What's the incremental cost of these? If you were to buy one more on top of our subscription.
Ross, what did you just pay?
So I paid $1,400 for 2.
So still around $700.
Okay, so that's something I could take to Mike Fitchburg in
About
terms of.
$600 of that was tariff and shipping.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. Forgot what my other thing was. Never mind.
I mean, it is easier to use the city's one because these are all going in the right of way, and if Bike Fitchburg buys one and wants to mount it somewhere, then there's gotta be that discussion about them
We
putting.
just buy it for the city.
Oh. I didn't have my comment.
I did have one question on number 5.
Mhm.
Mark had noted that when he collected the data, it was pointed the wrong way.
It's-
I assume it's been
yes.
flipped back around.
It has been
We've
flipped.
fixed that.
Yeah, so they put it back in November, and just,
That
they
was my
didn't
other
know,
question.
they didn't really know the specifics of it, so they just put it back.
Mhm.
They had it mounted the same direction on the pole got put on the opposite side of the trail. So they flipped that back in March, and it should be fine now. When we get the counts next, we'll see, there's a possibility that the camera's pointing slightly up, and that could be an issue, but we'll just see if the numbers look about what we expect from there, and if so, then it's fine. If not, then we'll need just a little adjusting of
Get
that.
only tall people.
Yeah, we're not gonna get any tiny kids on their Strider bikes. But yeah, that's what I got for the data item, and we are definitely getting tight on time, so I don't wanna.
So if you want to go on to the B-cycle report.
Yeah, B-cycle report, we can just kind of keep going here. This just came to us from B-cycle week or so ago. They've got their annual data out for last year. It's nothing super different from what we saw last year. We could go through the whole system-wide data they shared. The short version is there's been a lot of biking still. We saw a huge increase in cycling in B-cycle usage during COVID, when a lot of people had just more free time. That kind of dipped a little bit, and then as they started switching into e-bikes, it started to rebound again. They've definitely seen more uptake since they transitioned to e-bikes, so that's been a big boost for the B-cycle system in general. It has become a very large network, considering population comparisons. The fact that Fitchburg has 22 stations, and I think there are 80 in Madison, like Fitchburg is very well represented here. Now that said, the most used stations in Madison, Fitchburg's don't hold a candle to. We don't have the same population density or destination density as Madison. But we do have a lot of stations in Madison, as you can see here. By just the number of stations here is pretty substantial. I think in Madison you're getting some that have 10, 20, 30 checkouts per day, and nothing in Fitchburg is near that, but we are getting a good amount of usage from these, especially if you consider that several of these, so Hugo Jamestown, Traceway Drive, Staybridge, Rusty B, these 4 were all just added last year, and the least use among them still had 94. I think Rusty B that was just added in September, August, and it still had almost 100 checkouts, so really interested to see what that data looks like this year from some of those sites.
Some of the Madison stations are 20 or 24 docks too.
Right. Yeah,
so if you were to do a per dock, it would be much more comparable.
Funny that you mentioned that. I don't have Madison's counts. I do, so we didn't get this spreadsheet this year from B-Cycle, but I just did a quick manual comparison. So I've got all of our, just a quick way for me to sort each of our stations, how many docks they have, looking at checkouts, and then checkouts per dock per day, and then per dock per day. So nothing, again, that's crazy standing out here. It's just interesting to look at what are our most used stations, and probably not a huge surprise. Oak Bank, Wyndham Hotel, a couple of the earlier ones, and also closer to multiple uses. Oak Bank, you've got retail and residential nearby. Same thing with Wyndham. McKee Farms Park is one of the most visited places in Fitchburg. Swan Creek Park, you've got recreation and residential near there. So these are our highest used stations. 2 years ago, and it's not too much different in 2025, Wyndham became number one, but kind of the same 4 or 5 up near the top. Dolly, Bike Hub. This is one where I was really excited to try to get a station as we were redoing the parking lot at Cyene Road, that parking lot for the Cap City Trail. We just weren't able to get it worked out between ourselves, B-Cycle, and the county. But I think Dolly Bike Hub is being used basically as a park and ride for these docks, which is kind of what we hoped and expected would happen at a spot like that. I think if we could get a station at some point over at that Cap City Trail lot at Cyene, we'd see the same. It was going to be easier to do when we had the TAP grant dollars to back it though. But yeah, we can look at it per dock too, and I don't think anything changes much, at least for our sites, but it would be interesting to do that comparison with some of Madison stations. I don't have their data, but I do have ours. But yeah, so B-Cycle continues to be great. I know we've already had some communications from 1 or 2 places in Fitchburg about pursuing adding a B-Cycle station at their upcoming development. So we're not really in the middle of that. Once the TAP grant ended, Fitchburg kind of stepped away from leading this charge, but certainly we're happy to make connections and talk to places about it. But places are in contact with B-Cycle now about maybe adding some more stations around Fitchburg. And that's what we really want to see is for this to become self-sustaining, we need businesses to say, we're gonna buy into this ourselves as well.
Yeah, I just want to say kudos to the Plan Commission and Council. I feel like the last few meetings I've watched, they brought that up with every development that's brought forward of, you're gonna put a B-Cycle station in, can you include that? So that's awesome.
I know certainly they have been, I think there's been also communication with Mark and Steve about that, so kudos to Mark and Steve for continuing to push that.
Yeah, we are always telling the bicycle-friendly businesses, applicants, how they can support biking in the community, and for a big one like a Promega, we mentioned that.
And I guess, Steve, I know you were going to do your Bike Fitchburg update in a bit. Were you going to mention the learn to use a B-Cycle?
The what?
Oh, I was.
Yeah, I'll talk about that event.
Okay.
Unless Phil does.
Whoever wants to do it, there's going to be an upcoming learn how to use a B-Cycle event.
You want me to mention that now?
You might as well just mention it now.
So we are working with Round Trip Greater Madison, which is the transportation demand management portion of the MPO, your tax dollars at work, and B-Cycle to have a senior-focused how to B-Cycle event. It will be at McKee Farms Park on
It's Wednesday, May 6th.
Wednesday, May 6th.
At 9:30.
At 9:30. The idea is that we will have a chalk talk, how to use the app, how to dock and undock, and general safety stuff. And then we will go for about a 7-mile ride out through basically out East Sherrill through Swan Creek Park and back through the southern neighborhoods along the ridge. It's sponsored by Round Trip. They are paying for the B-cycles so that it is free. It's limited to 15 people. And I think that the senior center thing just came out, so you should be able to sign up for that if you're interested. And so the ordinary monthly ride for Joe is going to be moved to McKee Farms Park at 10 o'clock. So both rides will leave McKee Farms Park at 10 o'clock. That way, the regular ride for Joe people will know that they can learn about B-cycles before their ride, and the people who are learning how to B-cycle can see that there's a monthly ride. So we try to get some cross-fertilization there. And the rain date for that, if it's terrible weather, is we'll have it in conjunction with the June ride for Joe.
Is B-Cycle helping to coordinate that there will be 15 bikes at those
No,
events,
they have a thing called concierge service, which basically means that they have a person with a van that shows up, and the capacity is the capacity of the van. They can get 15 B-cycles in one of their vans. So
we're not taking them from the.
We're not taking them from the station.
Well, I guess we did have the discussion of what happens if, because there is a station there, that's the point of having it there.
So 6 more people could participate, just checking one out from that
In
station.
principle, yeah.
In principle, yes.
Yep. And if, somebody for the Ride for Joe wants to lock up their bike and try a B-cycle instead, there's that. I'll be taking a B-cycle from the dock and not one of the 15, because I have a subscription. Oh, while we're on B-cycle, I'll mention one more thing. There is a promotion now through the end of the month where you can get a free month membership on B-cycle for the month, a 1-month pass. And
use the code free month.
Is that what the code is?
Yeah,
Good, thank you.
easy to remember.
Yep. So go for it. Learn to B-cycle.
Go on to 5, report from the department, and 5A is council update. Joe, if you had anything for us?
No, I don't have any updates.
Thank you. 5B is staff update to the commission.
So one update item was gonna be that ride, so I'll scratch that. It is April 1st, so today begins the month, April Spring Roll Challenge that Round Trip is sponsoring. Go check out the Round Trip website. It's basically a register, log your rides, you can win some prizes, and they just wanna see that a lot of people are getting out and enjoying activity outdoors. So walking, biking, I think.
Walking, biking,
this.
transit, and carpooling. Green rides, or green trips, they call
And then just the last thing, there's not, I think a lot to discuss here, but just because it is recent and very relevant, the fatality that happened last week, I'm sure everybody heard about it. If you didn't, last week on Tuesday, the 24th, a truck jumped over the curb and hit and killed a cyclist on the path on East Sherrill Drive. There's a lot we don't know about that situation. What we do know is that the driver intentionally jumped the curb to hit the cyclist. We don't know anything about motive, we don't know why. We know that the reason that the driver was apprehended was that he later doubled back, went into the police parking lot here, and ran into a squad car, was arrested there, and then they made the connection to the bike fatality a couple hours after that. So, yeah, we weren't sure if there was gonna need to be a discussion about bike infrastructure with the city. This biker was on the multi-use path. It's really hard to draw much from it right now. Certainly a possibility if there are questions to ask the PD at some point, could ask them to attend. But just a really, censor myself, I was gonna drop an unpleasant word, very unfortunate, tragic situation. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned. We'll keep our ear out in case we hear anything else about details surrounding this, but that's what we know right now. That's all the update I've got.
5C is the Bike Fitchburg update. Steve?
Thank you. So we re-elected officers, and most of them are the same, but Mark Wilkerson is now our president. We have some upcoming events on Saturday, weather permitting. The Friends of Fitchburg Parks and Open Spaces, I think I have that right, is a distribution partner for Bikes for Kids Wisconsin. So in Belmar Park, there will be a bike giveaway, and we will be doing a rodeo at the same time, and a helmet giveaway and helmet fitting. So that's, weather looks bad, so we're hoping that that will come off.
Which day is the bike rodeo?
Saturday. This Saturday. Red Arrow Trail will be closed for it. Rodeo will be on the street. Celebrate Trails Day is coming up. That's Rails to Trails annual holiday. There are the Friends of the Badger State Trail are having a cleanup on the trail at various locations. Bike Fitchburg is doing a recreation station on Saturday the 25th. We'll give away drinks and snacks and maps and swag and talk up trails and biking and walking. And you will soon see yard signs all around the city promoting that. You'll also see yard signs for the pancake breakfast at the senior center. This is yard sign month. There's a QR code on there that will take you to the national map, and you can zoom in and see where our Fitchburg events are and the details. After your next meeting, we will be having International Bike to Work Day is May 15th. May is Bike Month. International Bike to Work Day is May 15th. We will have a bike to work with the mayor. You're all welcome. We'll meet at McKee Farms Park at the main shelter and B-Cycle Station at 7 and come to roll out to City Hall at 7:15, and weather permitting outdoors here or indoors, we will have a presentation of our February and May bicycle-friendly business awards, and the mayor will say nice things about biking. So I haven't talked to both candidates, but at least one of the candidates is on board for this. So those are the events I'll mention that are coming up in the near term. You probably saw our bicycle-friendly business announcement. We have 4 more. Due to the surging Bentonville, Arkansas, we dropped from 5th to 6th in the nation. But we have 5 applications for the current round that went in March, and Bentonville has none. So if any of theirs drop off, we'll be back in 5th. Because they're only good for 4 years, and so this is a big year for us because in '22 we submitted, I believe 9, and Wheel and Sprocket is no longer open. But to stay even, we have to renew those other 8, and we have 4 of those in plus Promega as a new one for the June 3rd date, and we may have some more. We will be, Bike Fitchburg will take the lead on submitting our bicycle-friendly community application in June of '27. And so as we come up this year, we'll be collecting data on our road network, on our bike counts, and our policies. So trying to get as many things done as we can before that June deadline. That's all I have, unless there's any questions on our activities or policies. I can just mention, we May 1st will start our season for Cycling Without Age Fitchburg. We think of it perhaps as a bike thing because we pedal those trishaws. to take people who can't bike for themselves on rides. But it's really an intergenerational community building thing. That Bike Fitchburg was the financial agent. We're just about to approve our bylaws, and we will be spinning that off as a separate nonprofit corporation. So you'll see the Trishaw at the farmer's market and at senior living places and things like that. And we are recruiting pilots. So if you are interested in having a really heartwarming experience being a pilot for people that can't ride and finally get to feel the wind in their hair, some of these people don't leave their rooms, memory care folks and stuff like that. It's really a great thing, and we'll be participating in a pilot training up in Eau Claire, Mark Wilkerson and I, and then we'll be training pilots in Fitchburg for our own group. So thank you.
Joe just had to drop off, so the only official thing we can do now is adjourn, but before that, Kelly, is that hand for me or for Steve? Sorry, I missed that.
It's actually an announcement as just a public service for us. Dane County's active transportation plan is currently being updated, and we can review the draft and make comments up until May 13th. Sorry, Monday, April 13th, sorry.
Yep, thanks.
So if you are interested in having any input into that, now's the time.
All right, thank you. Just the announcements, our next meeting is May 6th. Again, hoping that we can start our discussion on biking on sidewalks at that point.
We could also say that, for the record, that Bike the Berg Challenge starts next month, and registration is now available. And also registration is available for our brewery ride on June 6th. That is being led by the Chamber and benefits Cycling Without Age Fitchburg.
Move on to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second, Kelly, or I can second?
Yep, second.
All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.